All right. We are going live. Yeah, this is cool. This is cool. Let's check it out. Oh, just letting a few people get in here. About to start here. Yeah, that's crazy. So I'm working on this piece here for a fan that's really into power, like most of us are, or many of us are, I should say. And been behind on it, but I was gonna go live on another platform, but I was like, let me actually try this YouTube joint, see how this flows. I haven't done it in a while. So what I'm doing here is I've already started uh this piece. I've done Ghost. Let's take these out. I don't know why that's showing like that. So I worked on Ghost already, and I'm laying the grays down, and what I'm gonna do is on top of it put a layer of the color of their skin and kind of just put in the shadows and gradients from their skin, but it makes creating the value easier when I start with the grayscale. It just makes the process faster. It's a little bit meticulous at times, but it's much easier than starting over. Sorry, I'm not used to this. All right, cool. All right. So, first layer is the gray. Second layer is the sketch. Third layer is the ink that I'm working on. And I'm working with a technical pen, ink pen. What up, Biker 3? Um, and this is gonna help my eye basically trap in the the lines. Because sometimes when it's too loose, this is just me personally, I get lost in the details, and it just makes it harder for me to get to a completion. So some of these hard lines I like to do just to help me move along the process and identify, my areas of focus, if that makes sense. And you can kind of see it coming to life already. Now, some of these lines I don't want super hard, so I'm gonna go to my airbrushing tool. I'm a traditional airbrush artist, so a lot of my tools I use are an airbrush. Now, you can do adjust the fall off and adjust it however you want to. I don't necessarily mess with it too much because I haven't really, even though I'm live on here doing my thing, it's like I haven't yet perfected how to, I don't know, um, adjust those yet. So I've learned ways to, I don't know, compensate, and that's what I use. So right now, I'm not trying to sh focus on shadowing. I just want to get some of this, what I call um, soft line work in. So I want to identify some of the hard areas, but in a soft way. So that's why I'm putting in the eyelid, where I used to use like a pen, but it gave like a cartoony look and it was a hard look that felt like if I approached it more like a traditional canvas, I could get a more realistic look without changing my process too much, if that makes sense. Because with an airbrush, I'm doing this just like I'm using a pencil, like I'm doing here digitally, but it's with an airbrush, I use a softer lines or strokes. So again, I'm trying to restrain from shadowing much, which is hard. So when I'm doing portraits, other thing I work on is eyes, nose, mouth. Oh man, God, what up, Wyatt? An artist. Listen, man, this is my first time on this platform in literal years. I decided today that I'm coming back, and that's why I'm live. I decided I want to instruct, teach more in this next year and phase of my life. I've been doing art for airbrush specifically for over 20 years. I've been doing digital art for probably the last 10 years, maybe a little bit more than that. Um, I don't consider myself a like a guru. I have so much more to learn, and that's in the past stopped me up till now from being more public. But Jay, what up, though? But some people explained to me today, like, bro, you know more than the person that's getting started. And with my realistic approach, it could help a lot of people. So here I am. So eyes, nose, mouth is what I'm focusing on. Hey man, I appreciate y'all, comments and saying hey in the comment section. Let me know you're here. That's super encouraging. If you have any questions about the process, about my journey, feel free to drop those in the comments. I'll be glancing at the camera, my phone. I'm streaming from my phone. I'm not super tech advanced here. Not yet. I don't like that curve. Yeah, we're gonna do this a little bit differently. So I didn't start from the very beginning on this live. What up though? Um, but maybe on the next one I will. And with this, because it's digital and I'm trying to get this commission done, um, no secret. I traced the sketch from a picture. Like I want to get my proportions right. I'm not trying to, you know what I mean? Have it all off. But to keep the art element in there, everything else is where I'm focusing on making sure that it's my artistic rendition. Um, because you can still mess it up. Don't get it twisted. You can still mess it up at this point badly. You can get a bunch of different outcomes just because you located where some of this is. And then I don't like that's another part of the process that I like. I don't like to use black lines for everything. Like I've seen some artists where they, trace the image, but then they trace it in hard black lines and then try to color it in and it looks traced. I don't like that. I'll even sometimes change some of the things that I don't like in the image, um, as long as I have a reference. So we're gonna put here. That's too many strokes. Yeah, so once I get this grayscale to a place that I'm comfortable with, then um well, a lot of times it kind of just takes a life of its own and it's easier to add those edits in there. So again, his little mustache here might change this, but I just want to identify it with on my lines. This is on my line ink. Um uh, what am I trying to say? My ink layer. So anybody you know that's into digital art or wants to learn digital art, shoot them this live right quick. Have them join. Um, Probably gonna keep it up, just after just trying something new. Just trying something new. All right, so now I'm really just focusing on the face right now, and I'm actually gonna go back to my ink technical pen here, and I want these border lines to be not that hard, not that thick, rather hard and thick. Pause. So his neck here is going to. Jay, how you doing? Last time I saw you were um getting medical attention. Praying for you. Hope things are better. All right, so even though this is all black, I kind of just want to dark it out. And I'm just gonna focus in this head area right now. The rest of the clothes and stuff I'm gonna come to later. And because that we have the smudge tool, I'm gonna do a hard black line so I can drop and drag the darks there. Um, Actually, there's a couple spots that I can black out right now, but I don't think I want to use that tool right this moment because I'm gonna have to go back and smooth them out. All right, so now there's our inks. Get in there. All right, we praying for you. So I'm gonna drop to a layer below the inks because now I want to put in some of these shadows. So I usually like to do something like because of this character, his name's Tariq. Tariq in one. Sometimes I'll do like multiple skin layers. I'll do that. And if you want to erase a mistake or the last move that you did, it's simply two fingers. To replace it, it's three fingers. So we're gonna put that back. That's what I do love about digital art. It's so easy to go back and forth. And then I have my little swatches up here of the grayscales that I've been working in. I don't know if this is the same one. So I'm gonna go a little bit darker. Go back to my airbrush. And now I can play in these shadows. I probably shouldn't have did these little shadow markings in my ink layer, but I'm gonna go back and smoothen it out. But here is where I just kind of start filling out where the light strokes are hitting. And actually on my last one that I did a medium brush, which has a more block, like it's like a solid blocky but yet round um stroke, just for me to quickly lay down the ideas for where the shadows are. And then once I pretty much lock it in, I'm gonna go back and smoothen it out. But this is just kind of allows me to look at the picture and take the thinking out, which is really dope. And at first it looks like, oh my gosh, like if I would never, I ain't gonna say never, but I would probably not do this, with traditional markers and art. But I have, especially depending on what kind of markers or even style that I'm trying to go for. But what's cool about digital art is so forgiving because you can literally just erase it or backstep. Got his cheekbones here. Got some shadow here. And I'm doing it light. I could go in like just dark, but since I'm still kind of just get the information on there, I like to not only work in layers literally with the layers tool, but layers with my art coloring and shading. And then here, this is definitely softer. So what's cool about the Apple Pencil, which I'm working with, by the way, I'm working with um I don't even got the new boy like in the latest years. I got the older iPad Pro, 12.5-inch display. It's the big boy. Um, with the old Apple Pencil. As you can see what got the cap. Um, but with this, I can go back in now and smooth it out. But I was saying with the Apple Pencil, like a pencil, it senses the pressure. Like if with a regular pencil you press down harder, it's going to be darker. It also does that to an extent digitally. And you can even adjust it more here with this is the transparency or pressure. I like to say transparency. I don't know uh, the correct term escapes me right now, but I'm using the smudge tool now, and it's just blending in my hard edges. How easy that is. I can do it in a circular motion or just pull from the ends of the areas that I want to taper off on. And it lays a really cool foundation for me to come back over with the darker tone, and I can make that smaller if I wanted to get more precise on where I'm working and not hit the whole area with a bigger brush. Oh, that's cool. Let's get some shadows here on the lips. So this is pretty dark here to there. What's cool about using this technique, because it's not, this is gonna be a color picture, but I learned this the hard way. Like I'm working on another piece and I forgot to use this and I kind of kicked myself because it doesn't allow me to move as freely. This allows me to really just focus on what they call values instead of colors. So I can just focus on the shades, the darks and the lights without having to focus on the actual color. Once I put the values down, when I go back and put uh a lighter transparent color of each section over, is the value is already going to be there. And it's going to just, it's like I'm laying color on top of the value. And it's a really cool technique that I didn't use a lot before. And it's a time saver, especially when I'm doing multiple characters like this. So I know we got Jay in here. Who's the other person? Where y'all watching from? Jay, you back at home? I know this looks messy right now. Stick around, you're gonna watch how this just gonna turn into a take a life of its own. You are? That's good. Home sweet home. So it's crazy. Like I never really thought about going live on YouTube, but I remember somebody reminded me today how much people just watch YouTube for entertainment, information, and it occurred to me that YouTube has YouTube TV. So a lot of people watch YouTube as a new form of TV. So it's like watching TV live. That's crazy. All right. Might as well hit this ear while I'm in this color. I'm gonna, oh wait, here's another thing. I want to have everything on this layer to be confined into this gray that I've done here before. And to do that, because if I don't, I'll be able to color all outside the gray. I don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select that and make a what is called clipping mask. But I gotta take this down too. So everything that's below it, as long as it's clipped to the previous or lower layer, is going to stay within that confine. And so now that allows me to go back over here, make sure I'm on the right one. It's going to allow me to come back over here and just kind of draw even more freely without worrying about going outside of my selected line or using the selection tool and having to draw that whole selection tool on there. See, it's not going outside. Now, if I remove that clipping mask, you'll be able to see all those scribbles that I just did outside the line. But I don't plan to do that. And if for whatever reason I have to, I'll go back and clean that up. But for the purposes of watching, let's speed this up. So I've got that one down. I could actually draw the next color on top of this, but I'm gonna actually do another skin layer. And then once I like it, I can merge those together. Skin 2, just call that skin 2. And that's where I'm gonna come up here to my little swatch, grab that one just by holding down on it. It's gonna select that tool and my paintbrush. And now my son Loyal is watching. Hey Loyal, loves to draw and learn new skills from others on YouTube. That's dope. I'm glad you're watching, Loyal. And you are the reason that I got online today, trying to inspire the next generation of artists. And while I'm actually working. So this is a paid commission. I'm not just doing this to do it. Somebody paid me uh, a nice little amount so you can make money from art, especially nowadays. And you don't have to be as good or as detailed as I'm doing right now. This is just kind of all I know. I've seen people make even more money doing more simplistic work, but it's still interesting. And what I love about digital art and this program specifically is that this program Procreate, if you have an iPad or iPad Pro specifically, I think that was the one that is able to handle the file size needed. But if you have an iPad, um, this just makes the process so much more automatic. Because now I can, once I'm finished with this, I don't have to photograph my art. I can literally send a file to a printer. It can be printed on multiple surfaces, multiple times, and there you go. We done. So what I'm using, I'm toggling going back from my brush tool to my smudge tool, just because there's easier ways to do it. Um, but this right now, just the flow that I'm in, I'm kind of like wanting to have a not airbrush, traditional drawing experience. So that's why you see me doing a lot of shading. But I could also do this. Let's see, let's pick another section. So for example, I could take the selection tool, right? And I can, because we're on another layer now. Remember, we're on skin 2. So I can take the selection tool and I can literally just select a little bit of in the area, in the wider area that I want to hit. I can select that area. He's got a little line here that goes there, right? And then I could just take my brush, boom. And then there you go, there's that shadow. Now, deselect that tool, and it might look a little hard, right? I don't want it to be that hard. So now I take my smudge tool and I go over that outside line to smoothen that out. And the more you hit it, and you can decrease the opacity so it doesn't show as much, or you can control it by your Apple Pencil. I'm so used to airbrushing that I always control my paints with my finger. So I also often control my pressure and opacity with my Apple Pencil. So there, boom, same kind of thing. Um, but for the sake of art, I also want to have some of these artistic strokes that might get left in there, like I would if I had a pencil and paper. This is like what I'm doing right now is like the equivalent of having um forgot what they call it. One of those little smudge sticks that you do some charcoal. Bro, am I an artist? I don't even sound like an artist right now. I can't remember none of my technical terms. That's crazy. Oh yeah, so that one. See how that's coming together? I know this. So even here, so the eyes are kind of tripping me out. And like I was saying earlier, I'm gonna go ink back to technical pen. I want to get these eyes to look more complete. So I'm actually just gonna drop right here because this is a complete circle. Uh, so because it's a complete circle, if there was a break in there, it wouldn't work. But it's a complete circle, so I can drop that right in there. Boom. Now those eyes are starting to look a little bit more real to me and completed, which is what I needed to trick my brain. So now back to the skin and now back to the history. I can hit the history button here. That's the last swatch that I was using instead of going up in here and picking it from there. Change my brush back to my soft airbrush. And now I think I want to bring some shadow to these lips. Corner. This is where I'm working on the lip detail. Goes from dark to light here. So it's darker at this corner and lighter over here. So I can use that. If you're not really good at achieving that, just use the smudge tool from the lightest point and push back to the darkest point. It doesn't take a lot. That's a really cool way to get, shadows and smudges. This tool is really intuitive and really uh, accurate. This reminds me of when I would draw with Copic markers. Are you guys familiar with Copic markers? Um, Copic markers are a really cool and forgiving way to add color to an image, like physically, but it gives you the most forgiveness that I've ever really kind of seen, which is dope. Let's see. How many layers of the skin do you do, and what difference does the different layers make? So that's a good question. And this one, on this piece, I've been doing, this is so I've got a flat. Let me show you. Actually, let me show you in a more complete image. We got Ghost up here so far. I don't like that one showing. So with Ghost, I've got Let's build it. Okay. I've got this is the flat layer. I outlined the image and did a color fill, right? I've got the sketch that I did on top of that. That's two. And then I've got the ink or the hair. I did the hair and the ink separately because I wanted to be able to, select one separately. So right now we're at one, two, three, four, including the sketch. And then the skin, I did an all one layer with him, right? So that's five layers. Okay. So it's up to you. It's the layers are allowing you to stack it and control it how you want to control it. So sometimes, and the layers is not unlimited. It depends on the file size of your image as well. So depending on how much detail or file size it is, it'll tell you like, okay, you got too many things going on here. Let me cover this real quick because I gotta go to back to my images. I don't want nothing crazy to pop up. Sorry, one sec. All right. But you play with the images and the layers to your liking, and then yeah, when that happens. And then once you get good, you can start combining some of those layers, or if you feel comfortable with the skin layers, like I don't need to have them broken up. You can merge them together by just pinching them, and it'll make one layer. But I didn't want to do that, and I definitely didn't want Ghost to pop up. It pulled up everything. Alright. But it'll sometimes like pull up every image, and you'll have to go back and deselect the ones you don't want. All right, so let's keep working here because I'm getting off course. But great question. All right, so I'm smudging this lip out. So when you're looking at images, you want to look for just areas of shadows and gradients. You want to block out the areas of darks and lights instead of going right into detail. I don't like to go right into detail. I like to block out areas, which makes it easier for me to then identify the areas that need detail. Because in dark areas, like the whole right side of Joker's face is dark, really. You know what I mean? So really focusing on areas that are blacked out don't really matter. And actually, I think on this same layer, I'm about to go a little bit darker. Yeah, it's pretty dark, but hey, that's what I want. Because it's soft. Actually, a good opportunity to do it this way. This is outside of my traditional way of doing it. And what's cool is you can let up on no, I am gonna do this on a different layer. I'm doing it on a different layer. Mhm. All right, let's just do this. When you get too many layers, it does sometimes get hard to control the blending of which one is on which, because like, oh, I'm trying to blend this with the bottom layer, but it's not on that layer. So that can get a little confusing. I'm about to try something a little out of my conventional approach. Similar to what I did earlier. All right, hit the camera. So hit this dark area. So I have to remember to pull up on my pen so I can backspace to the last stroke. But to attempt to hit this dark area, I'm just selecting. All right, I'll take down the opacity, make my brush bigger, start dark in, dark to light. See how easy that is? And then I might shrink it so I can hit these smaller parts. Now I might turn the opacity up all the way just to kind of within that shadow hit the darker areas of it. But see, it was easy to identify what it was instead of, having to mess with all of that. That's actually kind of cool. So now I'm going to deselect it, hit my smudge tool, and smooth some of this out. Move that edge out. Ooh, look at that, y'all! You can even change your smudge tool. You can make it like a medium brush if you didn't want it to be as smooth, or even a hard brush for hard, smooth, hard brushes for making things smoother rather. I don't know if that's what I want though. And then this is also a cool way to not even have to draw. Like I could smudge it all the way over to the other area. Then I would usually have to add um, a drawing or sketching. Boom. Isn't that cool? Boom. Now I'm smooth this chin area out some. See, under here I did a hard ink line. And I don't want that. So I'm gonna actually, I can see it. So I'm gonna smooth it out. It works out pretty well. And then here I'm just gonna add some more dark. Put a little shadow in the eyes. Now this is a drop eyelid where we're seeing the top of his inner eyelid. So I'm gonna draw a little shadow to show that we're looking at the top of the inner eyelid. See, now I'm just having fun with it and capturing the details that I see as I keep looking back at it. That's my darker. And it begins to take a life of its own, you know? Here's a little pocket, a little yeah, flap there. Move that out. Too big of a brush. Now, what I'm seeing now is his hair is looking kind of empty. So now I'm gonna add another layer. I'm gonna put hair. I could have did it on the skin, but just trying to keep things separate for right now. And we're gonna make not only this clipping mask, just a clipping mask too. And I can make that dark. And then- So now for the fade, I can go to my brush tool. I think it's in no, it's in where is it at? Yep, under materials, go to short hair. Give me a hair. I don't know if the short hair is the one I like though. Let's try blowing hair. You gotta play with these brushes, you know what I mean? I think it's fine here. I'll just make the brush bigger. Yeah, here we go. That gives me his hair effect. Now I go back in here with my airbrush, soft brush, get little dots. You know how to give the get the opacity down so it's not as hard unless I press. Take my smudge tool. I'm gonna smudge these together. I'm using this as a cleanup instead of erasing. So I skin. But that's just to lay it down. I'm gonna come back over it more later to make it a little bit more detailed. So it just that's a little trick to just help me feel like I'm making progress and getting closer to, you know, and not staying stuck in the same step or the same space. I can look back at it and be like, all right, I'm making progress. I'm not, you know, stuck or majoring in the minors, as they like to say. I'm adding some gradient to some of these darker areas that I'm seeing that define the face, jawline, the pocket here, cheekbones. Just want to add some dark to it. And in color, this might be shadow or especially with women, blush, you know. Um, but here we're just capturing it in value. And I'm using a circular motion to blend it and pulling motion to stretch it further and along in the areas that I want it to stretch to. I don't want to totally kill it in the hardest spots of the shadow. So that's what I'm being careful with as well. So I don't have to keep drawing over it. But that's part of the process too. So don't get frustrated. It's a building. It's really a layering, is a better term. So this is a little bit too hard here. I might mess up. Yes, because the ambient light or reflective light is about to hit off of this side of his face. Here. Now we can't forget the forehead, the brow area, which is easy to forget. You so focus on eyes, nose, and mouth that you can forget easily the forehead, and that captures a lot of expression as well, especially like anger or frustration. The the expression that are in the eyebrow area, the brow area pulls from the forehead. All right, so now I'm going back to the lips. This mix I got going is fire. This mustache is dark on this side, so don't be afraid to apply darks where you see them. If they're there, throw them in there. And you can always smooth them out. You can always go back and smooth them out, or especially if you had good layer control, you can go right to that layer, erase, smooth, manipulate. That's the cool thing about digital art. It's not easy. It's not hard to manipulate your layers. It's much harder doing that traditionally and correcting and isolating an error or something that you want to, improve on. All right, guys, I think I'm gonna take a break, but I appreciate y'all for joining. I'm gonna take a little break here and come back, maybe on here or a different platform, but that was a bit of shading and how to build your shadows. A lot more, a bit to go. Especially like over here, I totally ignored the other side of Fam's nose. So like in here, come down here at the bridge, give his nose some curvature. Thanks for joining. I appreciate you. Hopefully, you learned something and inspired. Keep drawing. Love to see some of your work. Leave some comments. Continue to tap in and continue to create. Peace.